What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another video on the channel. And in today's video, it's gonna be story time. I'm just gonna tell you guys a story. I'm gonna have some Rocket League gameplay in the background. So if you guys enjoy this type of video, leave it a thumbs up and let's get right into this one. Okay, before you guys freak out, no, I'm not actually playing the game right now. This is just a replay from one of my old games that I had. So to start this story off, you gotta go way back to when I was in grade 7. But this was last day of grade 7. Little old Curdy Pie was having himself the time of his life. You know how it is at the end of the school year in grade 7. You're all hyped for the summer. You're getting ready to go. You're gonna have yourself a great summer. So at the end of the year, in my grade 7 year, the last day is basically just like a mess around day at school. You don't really do any work because the teachers aren't going to give you any of that type of stuff. They just kind of let you fool around and do what you want in your classes. For one of my art classes, I believe it was, or it might have even been my gym class, I can't quite remember, it was so many years ago now. For one of my classes, the teacher said we could go outside and play manhunt. And if you don't know what manhunt is, it's basically where one person starts off as like a seeker and all other people just go hide somewhere and you are able to run away from the person. So it's kind of like hide and seek, but if you get found, then you're it with the person who was it at the start. So we were playing manhunt. It was definitely one of my favorite games at the time. My whole class was playing outside, all on the school ground. I had a great spot. I was just running around the tennis court with one of my buddies. Our tennis court, it was pretty janky at the time. The gates barely ever opened to it. It was surrounded by a big metal fence that's not very sturdy, and we see the guy that is seeking everyone. We see him coming our way, and I see him and I'm like, oh god. I point him out to my buddy. I'm like, he's right there, we have to hurry up, we have to get going. The guy who's seeking spots us in the tennis court. We start trying to run out the other door, but the other door was locked, so you could only get in and out from one door on the tennis court, because it was the last day, so the school was getting ready to lock some things up. One of my buddies opened it and got away, which left me alone in the tennis court because the seeker was blocking the door. The seeker walks into the tennis court and I start trying to juke him out, running around the nets and doing all sorts of things to try to get away. And finally I have the door in my sight and he's chasing me. And I run over to the door and I push it open, and the door ends up, it has a little lock on it, and the lock wasn't on it, it was taken off at the time, but where you lock the lock, it's like this sharp pointed little edge. Instead of the door opening how it's supposed to, the door actually got caught on a mound of sand that was behind it. As soon as it caught the sand, it pushed back all the way my way and came back towards me, and the fence handle where you lock the lock actually hit me in the head. At the time I didn't really know what happened. I kind of stood there like in shock of what had happened, because it is pretty sharp. It's definitely the type of thing that'll just pierce your skull, and that's exactly what it did to me. I ended up getting the fence handle in the head because the door came back and hit me in the head, punctured a hole in my head. And I was in 7th grade at the time, so I didn't really know what had happened, but I put my hand on my head and I was able to feel a massive bump forming, and then all of a sudden the bump just burst. It started just pouring out blood and the teacher started freaking out. I kind of was in shock. I didn't really know what was happening. The teacher like grabbed me and she said the worst thing you can say to a 7th grade kid. She goes, oh, it's bad, it's bleeding, it's really, really bad. And of course at that time any kid would have freaked out, so I was freaking out a little bit because she was literally telling me it's really bad, it's bleeding a lot. And I could feel the cut. It was definitely pretty bad because I was able to like push my skull in and it was kind of squishy. I ended up being rushed into the principal's office, and I thought it was pretty funny, but I left a trail of blood from outside all the way into the principal's office. I know for a fact the janitor had to clean that up, so he's just cleaning up my blood probably. Everyone I walked by in the hallway, you know, all the people I went to school with, their mouths were just shocked. Like they were all like, what the hell happened? Everyone's like, oh my god, are you okay? And I remember one kid said, is he gonna die? No, I was definitely gonna be okay. I was definitely a little in shock, but I ended up up getting my dad to come pick me up. Got taken to the hospital, and at the hospital they threw 3 stitches in my head. So I got 3 stitches in my head, and that's how I started off my summer of grade 7 going into grade 8 was with stitches in my head. So I was supposed to have the stitches in for like 3 weeks or 2 weeks, I can't quite remember, but I remember a week and a half in, I went swimming and the stitches actually dissolved out of my head and they fell out. But my head did heal. Still to this day, I have a tiny bump on my head. It's like a permanent little bump on my head that you can feel from where the fence gate stabbed me in the head. But I'm okay. My lesson is definitely don't be running into any more tennis court doors. If you guys enjoyed this video, leave it a thumbs up, hit that sub button, and we'll catch you in the next one. Make someone smile. Peace. Oh my God!